Welcome to Office Hours. I am Steve Drost. With me, as always, Will Kaplan. Of course, both of us are from the Quivr CRM team. Now, what do we do over at Quivr? Simply trying to build a CRM that's going to help you, a real financial advisor, run your business at peak efficiency. Now, each episode of Office Hours, we tackle a couple of cool items that came directly from our Quivr users who are trying to make their life a little bit easier. Now, Will, most of our items come from office hours, which is, 2 hours. People can come and go as they please and we solve problems, but this didn't come from office hours, did it?
It didn't. It came in from another place, but I thought it was so important that I thought we should pick it up and treat it as one of the subjects for our office hours series.
Perfect. Well, tell me about it. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, so this ticket came in that was one I love because this is a user that I really like. And he basically had said, I was watching the videos. Well, now you've got my attention, right? There's, my heart is full. Watching the videos, and I noticed that when Steve has this compliance task show up every year, he's got task steps. And I love task steps. Again, love that too.
This is
Love
why
that
he's
too.
one of my favorite users.
Right? Flattery gets you a long way with us. So I want that task steps to show up because I need that, like, where do I click and what do I do? And this is a compliance thing, so I don't do it all the time. And I forget all of the reasons that task steps are so wonderful.
Task steps are just taking the learning management system, your standard operating procedures, and putting them right inside of a task. So that way, when you're on your homepage and you open a task, you just have everything you need to complete that task right there on the same screen in the same window of the same browser.
Yep. And so what we basically, what we sort of ferreted out was he was using recurring tasks, which is native Salesforce functionality, to replicate this task in the system as his compliance task. And I think what I think we should maybe talk about a little bit today, because there's a reason to use both, but recurring tasks do not have task steps. And so that's where he's been watching these videos and he's like, oh, this is just a recurring task. I do it every month. Why is there no task steps? Well, it's because we're using Archr, not recurring tasks, to generate that. And again, you have a lot of experience here. So, I'd love for you to kind of jump in and talk about like why you might use one or why you might use the other. Ultimately, the solution that we, solved for this particular user was just jump into Archr, build it there, and then you'll get your task steps as opposed to a recurring task. But there are still some places where those recurring tasks might be a good choice. So, I can think of a couple, but I know that you use them in your own practice. And so I thought that might be interesting too.
Yeah. So rule of thumb, if I do need to do something on a recurring basis, I think what he was talking about might have been ADV once a year. He probably just wants to have his ADV action get kicked off on January 15th. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. But something that is recurring like that, I do like to use the process, right? And the processes are inside of Archr. That's Quivr created functionality inside of Salesforce. And the reason I always lean towards processes first is because of the calendar view. When I click on the calendar view or that right from my homepage, I know on January 15th or whatever day, this is going to get kicked off every single year. And I don't wake up at 2 a.m, right? As business owners, you wake up at 2 a.m. nervous about things that you don't need to be nervous about. And then next thing you know, you don't fall asleep. And then your kids wake you up at 5 and you got a terrible night's sleep and you're going to be grumpy for the next week. And I don't want that to happen. So when in doubt, I do lean towards processes. And most of our users have seen my processes view, right? I've got 40, 50, might even be 60 now. Everything from my CE, from my CFP to ADV to monthly gift reporting, like you name it, it's in there. Now, why would I use a recurring task? And before we get to that, why are they different? So recurring task is Salesforce functionality. Processes in Archr are Quivr built functionality. So right there are going to be advantages with anything that we build because we are building it with the end user more well-defined, right? And a financial advisor that does real planning. All our features are built for that. Salesforce is building functionality for anybody that needs to track anything. So not saying their recurring tasks aren't good, they're just different. So because we didn't build recurring tasks, our functionality is not going to live in there. So the task steps isn't going to be there. It's not going to appear on the calendar view. You're not going to see that. But there are times where I don't want that on the calendar view. So for example, I have a client who retired, 2 years ago maybe, and he has I think it's a 457 non-qualified deferred comp plan. And he got to, upon retirement, decide, do I take this as a lump sum Or do I take 5 equal payments? Those are his only options. It's about $300,000. So 5 payments, let's just call it 60 grand a year. Well, 60 grand a year will pop him into, or if you took all 300 grand, it'd pop him into a higher tax bracket. Taking 60 grand a year, it levels it off. So we're saving 10% in taxes. We're going to take it over the course of 5 years. So I want to have a reminder, because he gets it on May 15th of every year. I want to have a reminder in the system that that's going to happen. I need to call the client, a week before he gets it, let him know you're going to get a deposit for 60 grand. Just so you know, the second you get it, I'm taking it from you and it's going to go to Schwab.
Right.
I don't want that on my process calendar. I don't want that there. I don't need to see every May 1st or whatever the day is, I'm going to reach out to, to Johnny and say, hey, you're getting this money. I don't need that. But what I do want, though, is a recurring task on May 1st that's always in the system and that works. So I'm going to see that. So with this instance, I did go to their household. I did create a task. I did mark it as recurring, and I did have it recur annually on the 1st of May or whatever date I picked. So again, that's maybe the exception, not the norm. But recurring tasks, though, I would say are more very client specific to one client, not your business even. Like 80, that's only, I guess specific to one person, you or your business. But that's still important enough where I want to see that. I want to have my steps. I want to have all that stuff. So that's going to go as a process. But this 457 deferred comp plan distribution, I don't need to think about that. I'm never going to wake up at 2 a.m. wondering if I'm going to remember his 457. I'm never going to. So just give me a task once a year.
Well, and I think what's sort of unique about that situation too is that it's got a relatively, 5 years, we think about like 5 years as a long time.
It's not a long time.
But it's not a long time, and it's not a lot of tasks. It's 5 tasks. And so, one of the differences also between Archr and these Salesforce tasks is when they instantiate, when that thing shows up. The nice thing about Archr is they get created. Like that task doesn't, I don't get 5 tasks. I get 1 task. And then when it rolls to the next year, then I get the next task in that series.
Yeah.
Whereas with the recurring tasks, you get them all at once.
Well, you get to
And
pick.
so,
But with this one, though, I did say give me them all. So you get to pick, do you want to create a recurring sequence of tasks? And the reason I did that was then I get to keep my due date constant. Otherwise, I can say, kick this off X days after the due date or X days after it's completed. And I didn't like that. A week matters here. I got a 1 week window where I need to call him, and I don't want that to get messed up. But you're correct. With Archr, I would get that task created on the 1st of May every year, no questions asked. With recurring tasks, I did have 5 tasks get built on that day. And one was, 5/1/2024, 5/1/2025, and then so on for 5 years. So you're right.
yep. And so I think also it's like when the numbers are small, recurring tasks are usually, that's when I would use them. I wouldn't want 52 weekly recurring tasks to show up. That would be frustrating.
Like an invest systematic or recurring ACH ins. I know some people that played with that and like, why do I have 1,000 actions in the system? Well, because you just told Salesforce, and again, like that's partially why we created Archr. Just every Monday, tell me, in the task steps, list the 7 clients that you need to invest, and then on Monday you're going to get that task, and you need to, or the 15th of the month, or whatever day you ACH in money. Exactly.
Yeah. So some good use cases, some interesting implications to be mindful of as you decide to use one or the other. But again, if you want that task steps, Archr and the stay on the Quivr path.
Yeah. And he's also a newer user, maybe 6 or 7 months on the platform, maybe less than that. And that's another thing, like why office hours are so nice, because even if you don't have questions, you might pick up on that. And then you're starting to understand the philosophy of Quivr better, like how Salesforce works, what we're trying to accomplish. And the better understanding you have, just the more stuff you can do, the more you're aware. Like Salesforce can do anything. So understanding some of those native features and functionality can usually go pretty far and helping you make your life easier. But perfect. That's a wrap. Good stuff as always. If you are a Quivr user, get to office hours every Wednesday. We can help you with things just like this, where we can make your life a little bit easier. And if you're not a Quivr user, that's okay. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes, but it's not too late. Schedule a demo, come hang out with me or Will, and learn what Quivr can do for you like it is doing for so many people already.